Do you find yourself struggling to get first or second or even third dates with girls? Do you often get ghosted or have girls say, hey, listen, I just didn't feel the spark or the chemistry? Well, listen, if that's going down, then chances are you're making one of the really bad conversation mistakes that I'm gonna talk about in this video. So we're gonna go over those as well as how to correct them. So the first conversation mistake that she hates is talking way too much about yourself. So this is gonna be the guy who's constantly bragging. He's talking about his car, his job, his career, all the things that he has. And he's basically constantly trying to impress the girl rather than genuinely trying to build a connection and learn more about her. So when you're a guy doing this, she can always feel that it comes from a place of insecurity. Something like you're trying to prove something to her. You're trying to show her that you're cool, that you're good enough, rather than just showing up in the conversation. And it makes you look not very socially savvy, and it makes you look pretty unattractive. Instead, especially early on, it's better to keep the conversation more focused on her, because the more she talks about herself, the more connected she's gonna feel with you. So the general rule I like to go by is you're talking, 30% of the time, and then 70% of the conversation is more focused on her. So that way, yeah, she can share more about herself, her passions, what drives her, and then you can relate and listen back with your own story. A side bonus for this is that it helps you maintain more of the mystery around yourself, and it keeps her excited about getting to know you. The second conversation mistake she hates is getting married to one conversation topic. So we all have conversation topics we're comfortable with, right? Like the gym, self-improvement, politics, sports, Netflix TV shows, and things like that. And that's fine, but the problem is when guys get uncomfortable, they start reverting back to those same conversation topics. So maybe anytime there's an awkward silence in a conversation, the guy might be like, oh, anyway, so like what types of exercises do you like to do for leg day? After they've already talked about the gym for 10 minutes. Now, this can be okay sometimes if it's a super brief callback, right? And there was some unfinished business with the topic, but you shouldn't be trying to like constantly dive back into topics that have already been covered. You wanna be able to weave in new topics and drive the conversation forward. Otherwise, it's gonna feel like it's getting stale and it's gonna feel boring. And for this, it's good to have a few good conversation topics in your back pocket. So maybe asking her about her passions, where she wants to travel, things that she's always wanted to do, what are her motivations that really drive her to make her do the things she wants to do, and those sorts of things. Maybe have like 5 or 10 of those in your back pocket, and when there is that lull or there is that silence, or maybe sometimes it even is a high point in the conversation, you just want to drive it forward, you can use one of those things in order to do that rather than kind of feeling like you're shuffling or panicking. The third conversation mistake she hates is when you keep it too platonic. So when you get that text from her saying like, oh, I just didn't feel like there was chemistry, or I don't think this is gonna work out, this is usually the reason why. Conversation never got past that level of friendship. Maybe it was fun, maybe it was even deep at times, but it never got to that level where she really felt attracted and like there was a spark. It always kept hitting that wall, never got past it, and she never saw you as a potential mate. Now this can happen when all you do in the conversation is dive super deep, you have this deep, seemingly fruitful conversation, but you never add any like flirtiness, teasing, or playfulness to the mix, so it always feels a little bit flat for her. And tonality wise, that can even be the difference between like, hey, how's it going? Oh, cool. What did you think about that? What are you passionate about? And like, all right, so what are you passionate about? Okay, what do you like about that? So it's a subtle tonality shift, but the first one is the guy who is just coming across flat, and the second one is more of that guy who's feeling the connection, who she's gonna feel more of that spark with. If she's having the same conversation with you that she could be having with one of her girlfriends, she's probably not gonna be very attractive. Instead, look for those opportunities to flirt, both verbally, maybe if you're teasing her about the food in Argentina, or about her accent, or about fun things like that. Or physically, where maybe you get physical, you touch her shoulder, her arm, maybe you walk with your hand on the small of her back, or even just kind of like bring her in close and things like that. And that's gonna show you, okay, how into you is she? How open is she to this connection and that sort of thing, rather than being the guy who's like 3 feet away from her, very, very proper, and it's not gonna make her feel very attracted, right?
Yes, yes.
You're like,
It's true. I,
you got the, it's true, it's very true. So the fourth conversation mistake she hates is when you tell never ending stories. So this is the classic case of the guy who talks way too much. So whenever this guy tells a story, he goes deep into every single detail that doesn't matter at all and that the girl doesn't care about. So anyway, we're at this baseball game, my cousin Vinny, and my cousin Vinny's crazy, by the way, but we're not blood related. Anyway, it was super warm at this game, which is crazy because it was only mid-April. And they cut this out, bro. Your story should be fun, concise, and playful, and they don't need to cover every minute detail. You should only leave in the stuff that matters and really sparks emotion or adds necessary context. Keyword necessary. If it doesn't do that, it shouldn't be in the story. I'd even recommend having a few go-to stories. So if you're going on a date with a girl, you can come back, tell them at good points in the date, and then from there you can practice them, get better at them, and you know what's gonna hit. So the fifth conversation mistake she hates is when you be too vulgar. So the key to good flirting is that it's gonna be subtle, but a lot of times guys will go a little bit too over the top.
I love to sun at the beach.
Oh yeah? I bet you look really good in a bikini.
Okay.
That's wrong. This is just gonna make her feel uncomfortable and like you're not a socially savvy guy. Flirting should always be on the subtle, fun, and playful side and never on the overly vulgar side. If you're getting confused, uncomfortable, or even neutral reactions from girls when you're trying to flirt and tease them, it's a sign that you may be going a little bit too over the top. Now, bro, if you find yourself struggling to get out there and flirt with girls, get them attracted, consistently get the dates that you want with the girls that you want to go out with, we've helped a lot of guys be able to overcome those challenges and do just that. Guys like this right here.
When I joined the program, I was at a little bit of a low, like after a breakup. So what my dating life is like now after being in the program for a little while is I just don't have a scarcity mindset anymore. I know that I have options. Towards the beginning, I was having a date, if not two, like every day or every night. On my off days, setting up dates to where I was having some trouble sometimes fitting everyone in. And I would say like it's definitely all like higher quality women than I would have been dating before as well. Like we talked about, you know, you feel like you would settle before, as now I don't feel like I have to settle as much because the options are there.
Now, if you want our help to get those sorts of results in your dating life, all you gotta do is click the first link in the description, fill out the quick application, and we'll have a conversation.